the one thing I'm definitely going to agree on is Black Lives Matter, the organization, is a political organization. And it says it itself on its website. It's supported by Act Blue, which is the main donor for the Democratic Party. The founder of Black Lives Matter is on the record saying she's a trained Marxist. I agree that Black Lives Matter. I agree that racism, if anyone ever made the claim that racism is the greatest plight on American history, I 100% agree. I believe slavery was something that had to be abolished, and I agreed with the fight against it. But I don't agree with Marxism, because that has destroyed more societies than any philosophy over the last 100 years, and I don't think it's even close.
You know, I didn't do this to make a statement to any one person or group. I just wanted people to know that you can be anybody, you can stand up and you can make a statement. And is there things that might happen? Possibly. But I can tell you that I have the groups that have supported me, you know, the Dakota Patriots and the Concerned Citizen District 196. Oh my gosh, I can't even tell you how wonderful they are. And it's been very humbling to see the amount of support. But in that, the comments we keep getting are, thank you for standing up. Well, you know what? Anyone can stand up.
The definition of terrorist is a person who uses unlawful violence or intimidation, especially against civilians, in pursuit of political aims.
Yep.
To dox someone based upon their opinion of an organization that is very controversial, and to try to ruin their livelihood and to attack them ferociously online, is it unlawful? There could be an argument that it's unlawful, to be honest with you, because violence could happen to your very bakery. But it unquestionably is an attack and an intimidation against a civilian in pursuit of a political agenda. Welcome to Minnesota Uncensored, podcast hosted by Senate District 57 Republicans. My name's Tyler Turner, and our goal in this podcast is to give you a conservative perspective in what is a very liberal media world. Illiberal media world. Please subscribe to our podcast on Spotify, on our iHeartRadio, and on Stitcher. Also, you can subscribe and listen to us on YouTube and our Facebook page, Senate 57 Republicans. Today is a very important podcast. I say that about every podcast, so maybe I should stop saying that. But anyways, this is actually the most important one. We've obviously been hitting home about critical race theory in our initial podcast. We brought on Brad Taylor, who actually brought up what's happening in a local school, and he talked about it at the school board meeting June 14th. Well, 2 weeks later, we had another school board meeting, June 28th, and once again, a lot of individuals came out. They spoke on what's happening in our schools, what's happening in our culture, what they don't agree with. And one of the individuals who spoke was Lorene Narva. She is the owner of BitterSweet Bakery, a gluten-free bakery in Eagan, Minnesota. She went there. She spoke on a plethora of issues. It was pretty vast, pretty wide. And you would walk away saying, hey, like every other school board meeting, we have our differences. We have a lot of differences. You have people on both sides of the aisle speaking up. The school board definitely has their opinions on stuff. And you kind of go on your way, and that's kind of how life is. Well, that's not how it worked out for her, because a group of people starting online took real issue with some of the comments she made. And they went as far as to dox her business. If you know what doxing is you write bad reviews, you screenshot information from the individual, you spread it online. They had a petition on change.org to boycott her business. And then inevitably, she's had a 17-year relationship with Valley Natural Foods. And that relationship ended. And the reason why it ended is because the owner and the co-op, Valley Natural Foods is a big food co-op in the Burnsville area, decided that she said comments that they could no longer do business with her because of her comments. That is a massive, massive problem. And I have here Lorene Narva. What's up, Lorene?
Hey, doing good. How about you, Tyler?
Are you really doing good?
Well, you know what? Every day is a new day. I have to look at it that way. It's a new beginning. So I'm just waiting to see what the Lord's going to do today.
Yeah. So I guess the main, I mean, I kind of set the outline, kind of set what exactly kind of happened. Maybe you just fill us in how, first of all, how it's been for you, or you could either go a couple different directions. You can either fill us in on how this has been for you, or what exactly brought you to the place to speak at that school board meeting, and why such the backlash, why you specifically, of all the people who have talked, and there's been a ton of people who have talked throughout the last few school boards, why specifically were your comments so egregious from the other side of the political aisle?
Well, I decided to speak because I'm an alumni of Rosemount High School. My dad graduated from there. My children graduated from there. I have a grandson slated to graduate from there. So we've been in this area a long time. And education has always been, you know, very big. I mean, we have a good record educationally. We had a good record, I should say. Things aren't looking so good in the state of Minnesota right now for education. But in the big picture, I started becoming more aware of what was coming home and what the kids were talking about and what exactly in school did they see and learn. And when I had my grandson come home and tell me there was a BLM poster in the band room, I thought, what the heck? What are we doing? And then I thought, you know, I got to find out. So I decided to go to a couple of meetings of concerned parents and hear some of the stories. And I thought to myself, you know what? I'm willing to speak, but first I want to go to a school board meeting and find out what's going on right now. How was the platform maybe changed? Because it's been a long time. I spoke at a school board meeting many years ago defending my children's ability to be involved in sports and the arts because they were going to take that away if they didn't get their referendum. And so when I got there and I saw that they started with the Pledge of Allegiance, it really kind of hit me. It's like, do they understand what they are pledging to? And how does that fit into education? And so after that, that kind of got my mind thinking, well, first let's understand what we've pledged to, and then what is the responsibility of a school board member? There are 3 key points that they are supposed to be doing and who answers to who, and so I wanted to kind of lay that out for the people, because I'm not sure if people really know what the school board is supposed to do. I mean, they think, oh well, they passed this, they passed that, it's all for the good of the kids. But as we're finding, what is good in their mind and what is good for the kids is 2 totally different things.
Yeah,
So
yeah, to kind of add to that point, because if I talked about my previous last podcast, I specifically kind of outlined what I spoke on. I spoke at the June 14th podcast, and I actually spoke specifically on the responsibility of the school board. Well, first of all, their school board is supposed to be responsible. That's actually their first responsibility, is to be responsible. They're supposed to be fair, and they're supposed to treat respectfully the community that they serve. Obviously, I went there to call out Art Colson, who's been a longtime member, because of his disrespectful comments to Christians and to conservatives within the community. And it sounded like that was, I mean, maybe you didn't go out about it the exact same way as me. You didn't call it any specific member, but you kind of went there and say, hey, this is your responsibility. This is how you're supposed to, this is what you're supposed to do as a school board. And then you just brought to light specific issues. And so to just talk on the one that I saw the most kickback on online, and from conversations with the CEO of Valley Natural Foods, sorry, so to be specific, I had never talked to the CEO of Valley Natural Foods, but from people within the community that did talk to him, he didn't respond to me. He never responded to me. And first of all, I think that's a problem, because I reached out, I said, why is this happening? And he never responded to me, which he's the CEO of a co-op that literally feeds the community. So I think that's a problem right there. Second of all, the feedback I got was some of your comments about a group like Black Lives Matter. What specifically did you say about Black Lives Matter, and why do you think that particular, maybe mention in the light that you did, why do you think that caused such an uproar?
well, if you looked around in the amount of teachers and other people that were in the room, there were a lot of Black Lives Matter t-shirts on these people. Various different phrases that went with it, but the bottom line was they were supporting Black Lives Matter. And I think the contention has been, when you say the word Black Lives Matter, people that don't understand what that organization really is about just think about Black people. Well, it would be wonderful if they were doing something for the Black people, but this is just a cover. They're not helping the Black people out at all. And then we've got people going along that don't know. They're just going because, well, my friend went or my neighbor went. And people aren't being educated as to what is this group? Why am I a part of this group? Should I be a part of this group? And so I listened to quite a few different people, pastors across the country, and I listened to their opinions, but I also listened to what they're saying about groups. And so one of the statements I've heard is that, Black Lives Matter is the most racist organization in the history of the United States. And why do they say that? Because they have done more destruction and more harm, not to one group of people, not to protect the Black people, but they don't care what color your skin is. If you don't agree with them, then they're going to take you down. They're going to destroy your existing business, break your windows. They're going to harass you. I mean, their whole goal is to take you down however they have to do it. Well, that doesn't speak to Black lives. And so that's the question that I have to people. If this group is so good and doing such wonderful things for Black people, why don't you tell me what that is? I'd like to know. I'd really like to know how they're doing that. But I only made one line. That was the one line I said in my speech. That was it. I never dwelt on Black Lives Matter. But, they like to pick and choose, and they like to pull out things that they can use and twist. So now, they're calling me a bigot. They're calling me a racist. They're calling me a social injustice warrior. They love to put labels on things, but truth is not part of what they stand for.
I just want to make one, and this may be going a little bit off onto a little bit of rabbit trail, but I want to make one connection. I'm not going to speak specifically about your exact statement about Black Lives Matter, but I'm going to make one connection. So a lot of the statements about you online was in reference to your faith. It was even referenced petition against you because when you walk into your bakery, you're clearly Bible verses. You're very outspoken with your Christian faith, and many people seem to make an argument that you're not acting Christian and your comments weren't Christian. I want to make one correlation between, and this doesn't get said enough within our culture, the individuals that fought the hardest against slavery were Christians.
Yep.
The Great Awakening that happened in America in the 1830s, the biggest divide between the culture at that time was the Protestants in the culture that were part of the Second Great Awakening under like Charles Finney. The first was George Whitefield and Jonathan Edwards. But the Second Great Awakening, their biggest problem with American society at that time was the act of slavery. So sometimes you see like this juxtaposition from like our culture that Christians were applicable, were complicit in slavery, when little do they know that devout Christians in the Christian Revolution during that time was adamantly against it. That's a complete rabbit trail, but a little historical lesson for people that for the argument of Christians not caring about slavery, and you always see this kind of weird conflation, and it's not going to stop because
No.
I see the alienation of Christian worldview, and they like to connect it with slavery, and that is erroneous. It's wrong. It's not accurate. So it's a false narrative. Specifically with you, the one thing I'm definitely going to agree on is Black Lives Matter, the organization, is a political organization, and it says it itself on its website. It's supported by Act Blue, which is the main donor for the Democratic Party. The founder of Black Lives Matter is on the record saying she's a trained Marxist. I agree that Black Lives Matter. I agree that racism, if anyone ever made the claim that racism is the greatest plight on American history, I 100% agree. I believe slavery was something that had to be abolished, and I agreed with the fight against it. But I don't agree with Marxism. because that has destroyed more societies than any philosophy over the last 100 years, and I don't think it's even close.
Yeah.
Close. I mean, Nazism, fascism, how horrible they were. Communism and Marxism has destroyed countless countries: Russia, China, Cuba, Venezuela. They're fighting for freedom from it, Cuba right now. So I agree. Black Lives Matter, the organization, if you're going to be sitting there with a Black Lives Matter organization and statements from the organization, you are supporting a destructive movement from an ideological standpoint. Arguing on that point. Black Lives Do Matter, the organization, is destructive. And I believe that's when you said that, maybe it didn't come across that way, but that's how I took it.
Yeah.
So I guess I remember interpretations upon the individual, but to start a petition, to dox your business, and then to inevitably, I guess, destroy the longest relationship you had with a co-op in the community, Valley Natural Foods, based upon not an actual truth.
Right.
Based upon your opinion versus them, and possibly concocting your personal opinion into whatever narrative they wanted.
Yeah.
I find that's not only do I find it wrong, I find it kind of scary.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the thing is too, that I tried to meet with them to, have a conversation. Can you please tell me, my goal was at my meeting to find out how they came to the conclusion to cancel me after a successful, and I want to impress that word, successful 17-year relationship. I never had a problem with the company. They paid on time. They got an order from me twice a week. They were very easy to work with. I mean, I have nothing bad to say about Valley Natural Foods. They were very good. I've been a member there for 30 plus years. I mean, I believe that we needed that kind of a company in the community 30 years ago. So for them to not give me an opportunity to have a conversation and face-to-face conversation, because I don't like this call them up on the phone and say, hey, we're done, or give you a text or give you an email. I'm old-fashioned. I want to see you face-to-face. I want to talk. But they never gave me that opportunity. And I really think that if I could have had the opportunity to talk with them, there would have been a different thought pattern behind their just immediately dropping me. But again, I never got that. But when you talk about the Christian thing too, over the years, Christians have gotten soft. People believe that if you're Christian, you're wonderful. It's all about love and hearts and roses, and you never take a stand, because after all, that's not what we should do. Well, look at Christ, for crying out loud. He was a rebel, for Pete's sake. But we have a right to have a stand, and Christians need to be involved in politics too. I mean, there's nowhere in the Bible it says not to. So, for me to stand up and say I'm a believer, that's my choice. And if you don't want to be, that's your choice. But you can't. The Christians across this country need to rise up. Churches need to rise up. This is a time. We can't sit back and let what's happening to me, because it's going to happen to somebody else. And, if the faith is what they want to jump on, come on, bring it on, because we are told we're going to be persecuted. We're told the fight is going to be hard. And I didn't do it because I want to be in a fight. I did it because I truly believe that there needs to be people standing up and saying the truth about what's going on. So, I've been hit hard, but life is like that. It throws you some stuff.
Yeah, I just to kind of play off what you're just stating, I do agree with you. The church has kind of forgotten its civic duty. I was actually to a podcast the other day. It was Dinesh D'Souza interviewing Kirk Cameron, and Kirk Cameron said he thinks one problem with the Christian culture in America is they have forgotten their civic duty. They've forgotten they need to be a part of school boards, city councils, local state government. And I believe that has happened because the abdication of their duty, of their responsibility to be a part of the society and to influence it in a from a Christian perspective. Yeah. It's very, you can tell with what's happened to our culture. You can tell by who is elected to the school boards, who is elected to the city councils, who is elected to the state legislators, that Christians have not been involved enough.
Yeah.
I want to make one point. So we're going back a little bit, and this might seem a little hyperbolic, but this is by definition the behavior of the political left that doxed and attacked Lorene for her political opinion. The definition of terrorist is a person who uses unlawful violence or intimidation, especially against civilians, in pursuit of political aims.
Yep.
To dox someone based upon their opinion of an organization that is very controversial, and to try to ruin their livelihood and to attack them ferociously online, is it unlawful? There could be an argument that it's unlawful, to be honest with you, because violence could happen to your very bakery. But it unquestionably is an attack and an intimidation against a civilian in pursuit of a political agenda. So the behavior of the left in relation to the comments by Lorene Narva is terrorist behavior. So when the Biden administration stands up and says the greatest threat we have is white supremacy, that is just a political maneuvering. It's just political maneuvering, because the ones who are constantly attacking, doxing, and being just plain ugly on a, I'm not saying the right can't be that way, but on a more normalized level, they're actually allowed to do it to a certain extent, and they do it with violence, burning, looting, destroying, impacting the culture in a negative way. That's terrorist behavior, and it's by those on the political left. So the great threat to America, if they weren't such lying political ideologues, is the political left. Whether it's organizations, whether it's individuals, it really is the political left. So I was going to, since you're on here and since it's been, you were a victim of it, what do you think the future of people speaking out publicly on societal issues at public forums, school boards, city councils, what do you think something like what happened to you? How do you think that'll impact others? I'm going to give my opinion, but I'm going to ask your opinion. Do you think this is going to embolden people, galvanize people, or do you think this is going to make people become fearful, or do you think it'll be both?
Well, when you mentioned the word fearful, what have we learned in the last year and a half? That word fear has totally covered the United States. I mean, we're so afraid we were going to get sick and die. Well, you know, people get sick and die every day, you know, and then there was the lie about the numbers of people. And when you've got something that you can survive by 99%, and you're so afraid to go out your door. So the one thing they did very well was instill fear in people. And that's where I think the church needs to stand up also. Teach the people that do, what does Christ say? Do not be afraid. I am with you. So, you know, I didn't do this to make a statement to any one person or group. I just wanted people to know that you can be anybody. You can stand up and you can make a statement. And is there things that might happen? Possibly. But I can tell you that I have the groups that have supported me, you know, the Dakota Patriots and the Concerned Citizen District 196. Oh my gosh, I can't even tell you how wonderful they are. And it's been very humbling to see the amount of support. But in that, the comments we keep getting are, thank you for standing up. Well, you know what? Anyone can stand up. I hope that, I mean, could my business be, you know, to the point where I lose my business? You know, surely it could happen, but I'm not counting on that. I'm counting on the fact that I have a successful business. There's a lot of people that know my business and they understand what kind of attack I'm undergoing. And so I will survive this. But people need to know that fear needs to be gone. We can't use that word to be the excuse for what we can't do. Otherwise, what would you do? Would you even go outside? I mean, the chances of being hit by a car when you walk across the street are greater than getting coronavirus, for Pete's sake. So I hope that people understand that the fear should not dominate your life. The fear should, there's a respectable fear, but if you have an opinion, don't be told you can't have that opinion. And if you need to stand up for something, I mean, the mama bear syndrome, you know, if someone's coming after my kids, you better watch out. Well, we need to have that same attitude about other things too. We can't just lay down and roll over. It's going to be too late. If we don't stand up and do something, we're going to sit back and go, well, you know, I probably should have said something. Don't wait for that. Don't wait for that. There are people that'll come beside you. I mean, the community is strong. So
yeah. I do agree. I mean, I first of all, I completely agree. I 100% agree. Am I a little concerned that people are going to stand up? I am to a certain extent. Because you definitely see people online saying comments like, oh, like I actually saw this specific comment. This person's like, well, I was planning on talking to the school board, but now that I saw what happened to another small business, there's no way I'm going to do it now. And this person said it freely online. And I understand that every individual is allowed to make a decision for themselves. But I will want to make this point to anyone listening, watching this podcast. Throughout all of human history, the people that get lionized are the ones that stood up and were brave. Whether it was George Washington for our revolution, whether it was Winston Churchill as the Axis army and the Germans were coming on to England and the Brits were planning on surrendering, and Churchill stands up and he says, I don't care the circumstances through I can't remember the exact quote, but no matter the blood I have to shed, I will defend England.
yeah.
And it's the acts of bravery that history remembers.
Yeah.
So honestly, it's the people that maybe during their time on Earth, or maybe during the time that they stood up, they were not as popular. Maybe they were marginalized in the society. But when you look back at history, it was the people that made a mark were the people that stood up when no one else really wanted to.
Yeah.
So I want people to remember that if you want to go down as someone who stood up for your faith, for your beliefs, for your country, it might not be popular. You might initially feel like you're losing, but I think history will show that you were brave and you stood up. And in my opinion, Lorraine, I am very grateful that you stood up. I'm very grateful that you just spoke the truth, and despite what has happened. And I think, I mean, I can speak. I went to her bakery, by the way. She has great cookies. I love cookies. I'm not normally don't eat gluten-free, but her gluten-free cookies are extremely flavorful. Her gluten-free sugar cookies, I got 2 of them. They're amazing. So if you guys want some good sweet options that is very flavorful and still has a lot of like texture to it, go check out BitterSweet Bakery in Eagan. That's a little ad.
We'll help there. Yeah, thank you for that plug. Yeah. Yeah.
You sponsored my.
We pay in cookies, by the way.
What'd you say?
We pay in cookies, by the way.
Yeah, go check it out. But I think it was brave that you came there, you spoke up, you spoke your opinion more than anything, and that really has to be illuminated more than anything. We don't necessarily 100% have to agree. All the time, even on I'm a conservative. I'm obviously representing a podcast for the Republican Party. I don't agree with Republicans a lot. I mean, I darn right don't agree with the Republicans that are serving in the legislature right now.
Right.
But it doesn't matter. They're allowed to give their opinions. They're allowed to rule and vote as they want. And that is America.
Yeah.
That's our founding, and that can't end. And actually, that kind of boils into probably one of my last points I wanted to bring up. What so what does this say? What does this say to conservatives? So specifically conservatives, what does this say to conservatives that they can voice their opinion on very much political issues, and a business can be like, well, I'm done with you. Yep. What does Nick Steinberger, the CEO of Valley Natural Foods, what is his message to conservatives that shop, that are members of his co-op? What is his message to conservatives?
Well, it's we don't agree with what you do, and if you think you're going to come in here and help, and we're going to listen to you, you're off, you're crazy, because they're not going to listen to you. They have an agenda, and so with their agenda, you have to like what they're doing. What came to me the other day, they are servicing the community. And so they're supposed to be working with the community and working with small companies in the community. I mean, my dad was instrumental in getting Eagan to where it is today. He was very involved, and small business was his thing. People in this area should support small business. And Valley Natural just told me that you're not important. You do not have a voice. And because you don't agree with what we do, we're canceling you. That's black and white of what they did.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, it's not right, but
no,
they did it, and they didn't even blink an eye. I mean, part of me, they had to have a lot of kickback. I know there's been a tremendous amount of people that I'm talking to or that come into our bakery that say, I've been over there. I've talked to him. I've expressed my opinion. That he's getting flooded, I bet you, by emails. And so instead of addressing it, they run from it. And that's not, to me, leading in the community. The same thing with the school board. They're supposed to work with the community. And then they wanted to stop allowing us to come to the school board meetings. Now that didn't happen. They've changed their mind. But the big picture, when you say you're working with the community, you better have an open mind. You can't just have a very, stringent one way. The community is diverse, and you need to understand that. So, yeah.
yeah. When I think of just specifically the individuals, it's Nick Steinberger, the CEO of Valley Natural Foods. And once again, I'm going to bring it to light. I have contacted him. I have called him. I've emailed him. He has never contacted me back. It's almost just like he's like someone like him is a little bit or completely out of touch, meaning not everyone agrees with his political viewpoints, especially in this area. So
Yeah.
he serves mainly Burnsville, Eagan, Savage, Rosemont, Apple Valley, Lakeville, Farmington. And this area is very, very divided. Farmington, Lakeville, a little more conservative, Rosemont, a little more in the middle, Apple Valley and Burnsville and Savage, maybe a little more left-leaning. But it's a very, for instance, if you believe that Black Lives Matter is a great organization, half the community is pretty much going to disagree with you. Yeah. So if he doesn't realize that, then maybe he's not the right CEO for this community. Maybe he's better served because he worked at a co-op in Minneapolis. So that community might agree with that more. Yeah. But he moved to the South Metro that is a more conservative area, a more religious area, and they're just not going to agree. They're not going to agree. So maybe he needs to get a little more, maybe he needs to go out and meet people in his community and talk to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's my opinion. I mean, I think he's a little out of touch because that's just not a monolithic thought agreement upon this community. It's very divided. It's very divided, trust me. Yeah. I think we've touched on mostly everything. Is there anything in conclusion that you would like to add about this particular subject and about what happened to you? Yeah. Or you can plug your business, by the way.
Yeah. Well, I thank you for plugging my business. Well, we're a gluten-free bakery that started 17 or 19 years ago. And we did it because there was nothing out here and there was a need for the gluten-free, and my family was gluten-free. So I kind of, got, I came into it kicking and screaming. I will tell you that. It wasn't my idea. God just told me, you got to do this. And I thought, well, you got to open me up some doors then. And he did. But what I will tell people is, you need to take chances in life. I mean, for me to open up a bakery, I had no background in culinary skills at all. I mean, I baked in my home. I didn't go to culinary school. I didn't go to business management school. I didn't have any of that. But I had a desire and I had a drive. And you can do anything in life if you have that. If you need to get some education to do what you want to do, well, then do that. But don't be afraid. And we come back to that fear word again. Don't be afraid to step out and do it. I had a lot of encouragement, a lot of people behind me giving me that. And so in life in general, if you sit back and never move, you will be stiff and you will probably just fall over because your body needs movement, your brain needs movement. And so to be a light in the community, you get to say your comments, you get to have an opinion. Don't be afraid to have an opinion. Right now, we've taught people what you think doesn't count. You're not important because of what you think. No, everybody gets their thoughts. This is America. We have the freedom to think, we have the freedom to make decisions, and we have the freedom to move forward. And so I just encourage people, don't let fear be the monster that holds you back. Step out.
That sounds like the American dream you just
Yeah.
the pro-American dream, as much as the pro-American dream the reality that it is. So you heard her. That was a word of encouragement. Once again, you can watch this conversation and interview on you can watch it on YouTube or Facebook. You can subscribe to it on Spotify or a Stitcher or iHeartRadio. And if you feel like it, please donate to the Republican Party, Senate District 57 Republicans. The reason why is we would like to get elected officials in place that can help fight for small business owners like Lorraine Narva, fight against the indoctrination of what's happening in our schools, fight for school choice. So give parents a better option to be able to take their money and put it toward their children to the education they desire. I also believe giving law enforcement the proper resources is something that is very necessary, and it's obviously the defund the police movement, I think, has been a complete disaster. And by the way, I'm a law enforcement degree. I never worked in it, but that's my undergrad. So moving forward, help us out. Let's get people elected this upcoming year. As school board elections are coming up,
yes,
really big. We have some good candidates, so we can impact our school board. Vote for the city councils. Your cities matter. Vote for mayor, city council members in wherever you live in Rosemont, Apple Valley, and let's get some house reps in there that can help fight for our values.
Yep, I agree.
Hi, Lorraine.
Yes.
I appreciate you.
Thanks.
Keep us posted. We are going to be out there fighting for you, and keep visiting BitterSweet Bakery and get some great gluten-free options. This is Tyler Turner from Minnesota Uncensored. Have a wonderful day.